you're here today, but thank you for attending. Next item on the agenda, we have bill introductions. Do we have any bill introductions today? Representative Blacks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I have a RS 0825, which would involve operation of micro trucks, any trucks on Kansas roadways.
All right, does anybody have any questions regarding the bill introduction? All right, can you just tell me what's a micro truck? Do you know?
It's a small truck.
That would be smaller than a compact. I
Yeah,
guess.
and if I might take liberty, Representative Henderson and I sat on the Health and Human Services for 8 years, and he was a joy. And I told him when he come here, hadn't seen him for quite a while. And I said, you look younger, so it must be, there is something for retirement and removal of stress. Thank you.
And it says something about his level to handle stress, that he could put up with this place for 28 years. All right. And Representative Blacks, hey, Representative Blacks, was that on behalf of anybody? Who was that on behalf of, that bill? Who was the bill introduced on behalf of? A constituent or?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I apologize for that. A constituent, Brandstein, Mike Brandstein.
Mike Brandstein. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other bill introductions? Lieutenant Wise, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Happy Kansas Day. My name is Lieutenant Roy Wise with the Kansas Highway Patrol. And I have two different bills to introduce today, or request the introduction for. The first is RS 0768. I'm sorry, it's RS 0826. And that's a bill to clarify the position of major within the Kansas Highway Patrol as unclassified.
All right. Does anybody have any questions regarding the bill? Is there any objection to the introduction of the bill? If not, the bill is introduced. Okay.
And the second is RS 0855. And that's a bill allowing the Kansas Highway Patrol to collect fees from the manufacturers of ignition interlock devices for the administration and oversight of the ignition interlock device program.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the bill? Is there any objection to the introduction of the bill? If not, the bill is introduced. Thank you very much.
Mr.
All right. Do we have anybody else? Any other bill introductions? All right. If not, we're going to go ahead into our bill hearings today. I do want to mention before I forget, as I often do, we will not have a meeting Thursday or Friday. So you guys can have a little planning time and research time. Monday, though, we will work the two bills that we've heard today and the bill we heard yesterday. Okay. All right. With that, I'm going to open the hearing on HB 2029, designating a portion of K5 and Interstate Highway 635 in the memory of Representative Marvin S. Robinson. And the first proponent today will be Representative Patrick Penn from District 85. Oh, do you want to do a briefing? See, I forgot something. I didn't have my little overview. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry about that, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, committee. House Bill 2029 designates a portion of K5 Highway in Wyandotte County as the Representative Marvin S. Robinson II Memorial Highway. That highway is designated in Section 1, and it will go from, it'll be designated on K5 Highway in Wyandotte County from the junction of K5 and North 18th Street, and goes west on K5 to its junction with North 38th Street. As is common for all these highway designations, the requirements of KSA 68-10, 114 have to be met before those highway signs will be placed designating the highway. That statute provides that the secretary must receive sufficient funds to cover the cost of those signs and an additional 50% of the initial cost to pay for future maintenance or replacement of the signs. Section 2 of the bill would redesignate Interstate 635 because they combine together, K5 and 635 combine together through this portion. That was already named as the Harry Darby Memorial Highway. So as is common with these, and there are many roads that are designated in the state, When one is kind of replacing a portion, we redesignate one as the new highway and keep the rest untouched. So I would be happy to stand for any questions.
Anybody have any questions for the reviser? Hey, thank you very much. And if everybody will take a minute, I hope you're on your S drive and you've got the opportunity to review the fiscal note. With that, now we'll go back to where I was. Representative Penn, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee members, for having us here today. This is a special day. We are joined, as you saw out in the House floor, by members of the former Representative Robinson's family, to include his cousin, as we've mentioned before, Representative Broderick Henderson, as well as his siblings. And, you know, we took some time on the floor today to go through some remarks. I'd like to pick up because I did have to curtail those a little bit, and I'll just complete those. It's already in your written testimony, but I wanted to commit it to the record as well. And then I'll take any questions that you might have, if that's all right. Representative Robinson's legacy is deeply intertwined with the preservation of the Quindaro Ruins town site. He took me there several times, and it is such a rich historical place that he worked his life trying to make sure that it was enshrined appropriately, added to the National Registry of Historical Landmarks, and trying to work that as well through the state of Kansas. So this particular piece of land, this particular site, has a very rich heritage that goes into making Kansas a free state. It's a stop along the Underground Railroad. It goes into many of the murals that we see down here with John Brown. We talk about KU and the Jayhawks. All of it is intertwined there. So if you knew Marvin, you knew he was a master historian, so you probably heard all those stories. He embarked on a remarkable 37-year journey dedicated to safeguarding this vital piece of Kansas and American history. His relentless determination ensured that it had its rightful placement on the National Registry of Historic Places. He did that in 2002 with U.S. Congressman Yoder, actually traveled all the way to D.C. to provide testimony in the halls of Congress. His deep and profound commitment to preserving his community's rich heritage, while also carving its path for economic development in the future, earned him the title of the mayor of Quindaro, which the mayor of KCK lent word to as well. This was a testament to the deep respect and admiration that Marvin gathered from every soul that truly knew him. For this reason, it's wholly appropriate that I ask you here today to pass out of committee favorably HB 2029, which would, as the reviser stated, rename a portion of Kansas 5 Highway that runs in front of Quindaro Ruins from about North 18th, about 2 city blocks, to North 38th after Representative Robinson. A lifelong public servant, Robinson dedicated himself to the betterment of his KCK community, both through elected office and tireless advocacy. He served on the board of Economic Opportunity Foundation. He was especially proud of that. That's why I included that in the remarks. He worked on a number of different campaigns. For some members that are currently here in the legislature as well, they got their start with Marvin, as well as his mother and his sister and everyone else. But he was especially proud of being there to advocate for his community. And he did all of his advocacy and his work here in the legislature with deep intelligence, humble grace, true grit, and a courage that seemed boundless. His commitment to legislative action is evident in the significant body of legislation that he has his name on. We researched it. He had about 5 House bills. HB 2341, I won't go through the bill names, I'll just go through the descriptions. Declaring Juneteenth National Independence Day to be a legal public holiday and closing state offices for certain legal public holidays. Restoring local government control over wages, compensation, and benefits for construction projects. Providing sales tax exemption for hygiene products. Abolishing the death penalty and creating the crime of aggravated murder. Releasing any person convicted of a drug offense involving marijuana from such person's sentence and providing for the expungement of associated records. He also had his name on 8 concurrent resolutions. Excuse me, the one that he carried, Mr. Chairman, was commending the United States African American Burial Grounds Preservation Program. That was his maiden voyage, and he didn't know how to do it at all, but he got some help from a number of his colleagues to actually go through the channels and make that happen, and he was especially proud of doing that because as a historian, that was something that was important to him. Commemorating the 70th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education, which happened right here in Topeka. We also know that he was on proposing an amendment to the Constitution to the state of Kansas to decrease the assessed value for real property used for residential purposes to 9%, proposing a constitutional amendment to amend Section 4 of the Kansas Bill of Rights to recognize the right to bear arms as a fundamental right that includes possession and use of ammunition, firearms accessories, and firearms components, and that any restrictions of such a right are subject to be held to the strict scrutiny standard. There's a tongue twister. Congratulating and commending the 2023 Kansas Teacher of the Year team, supporting and strengthening Kansas's trade partnership with Ireland, affirming the state sovereignty and support in Texas in its efforts to combat illegal immigration, as well as commemorating the celebration of St. Patrick's Day. So all of these bills and resolutions show that he worked across the aisle and for his district to address those diverse needs inside of his community. As I was stating on the floor, Marvin Robinson was a patriotic Navy man. He was committed to God and country and his community. He was a true gentleman in every sense of the word, Mr. Chairman. He was a gentleman with kind manners. You saw his deportment. He was a gentle man. I did not have that problem. He did. Who humbly faced extreme friction and vicious opposition with a quiet grace that concealed the strength of his will. He was a unifying force, a servant leader, a force multiplier. He was also the embodiment of a poem that we discussed. It was called If by Rudyard Kipling. I left a copy of that on everyone's desks this morning on the House floor. I encourage you to read that and remember him as you do. So this day, here in your committee, sir, we're going to try to remember how Rep. Robinson left this world much better than he found it. And he was surrounded by the appreciation of his community in the House 35th District, the respect of his peers here in this room, partners in the gallery, colleagues, and the love of his wonderful family seated here as well. So for your consideration, I thank you for that today. And I hope that we can go ahead and pass out 2029 favorably to honor the late Marvin S. Robinson II. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I know you and him were good friends, and I know he appreciated your friendship. Anybody have any questions for the representative? Seeing none, and I guess we can talk about it later, but there may be an amendment to the bill.
Yes, I've been in talks with the family, but his brother is also on tap to testify today. And if he's willing to speak on that, I think they're still waiting on some numbers to come back and see if that might be feasible. But you're right, sir, there could be.
And Chris, do you know anything about that amendment? We're going to probably work this bill Monday. We'll want to make sure we have it right. Has anybody said anything to you about it? Okay, just a heads up. All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Next on the agenda, I am so pleased to welcome Representative Ballard here. It seems wrong for her to be sitting over there. She's, for those of you that weren't on the committee last year, she was the ranking minority member. And welcome to the committee, Representative, and it's good to have you back in here.
This is my favorite committee, but it is also one of the activities that I just really appreciate so much. And it's interesting for me to be standing here. It's the first one that I've ever really testified for, and yet I have heard over 50 of these in some form or the other. So I'm really pleased to have been asked to participate in this as well. I will say Broderick Henderson and I have been roommates for over 20 years before he left. And I invited his cousin to also come as my office mate. So I spent those 2 years with him as well. I will read most of this because it's very relevant, and I will do so quickly. Chairman Francis, Vice Chair Essex, Ranking Member Helgerson, and members of the committee, please accept this testimony in strong support for HB 2029, which would rename that portion of K5 Highway in honor of the late Representative Marvin Robinson. He was my office mate through 23-24 in the Kansas House. He was a passionate advocate for his district and his community. He was strong-willed, he could be very stubborn at times, and he had an enormous heart. a passionate historian and advocate for his community in Kansas City, Kansas, where he remained humbled throughout his life and his career. Following the footsteps of his mother, Vertus J. Robinson, Marvin was a respected voice in his community and committed to public service. After attending Emporia State University and Temple University, he enlisted in the United States Navy. He returned to Kansas in 1987 and began a journey that would focus for 37 years, protecting and improving the Quintero Ruins Underground Railway. He prevented it from becoming the site of a new toxic waste landfill, which would have devastated his community, which would have devastated him. If you spend over 30 years dedicated to something that you love and you want to see the best it can, a landfill is not one of those things. This bill would rename a portion of K5 that runs near Quindaro Park and the Quindaro Ruins. There is no more fitting tribute to Marvin, an individual committed to his community and public service, than honoring him along this specific stretch of highway. While Marvin would never ask this for himself, he earned it. When my husband and I attended his celebration of life on September the 7th, 2024, his family, his friends, constituents, pastors consistently mentioned his passion for preserving Quindaro Ruins. This tribute will be a lasting reminder of Marvin S. Robinson II's dedication. It will be a reminder for his family and his friends. These awards are not for the person who's deceased. It's for his family and friends and people who know what he did. And as they see a name, they appreciate it. That is why these awards have meant so much to me, to be able to present something like this to family and friends. I would urge you to please pass this, not because it's the right thing to do, but because this individual earned it. I want to thank you for your time and your consideration. And I hope you know, standing before you asking is a little different than sitting in that seat asking a question. And for that, I am grateful I had the opportunity today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative, for your testimony. Does anybody have any questions for the representative? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the next proponent for House Bill 2029, Harold Robinson. Welcome. Welcome to the committee, Pastor.
All right. It's not good for a preacher not to have a mic. Just for the record. Just for the record. I'd like to make one correction, and that is Marvin is my my only brother, and while he is my only brother, we don't share the same last name. So I would like to make sure that I correct your record. My name is Harold Dwight. I am the pastor of Eagles Nest Church of God in Christ. I also serve as the chief of staff for Bishop L.F. Houston here in Kansas East. Marvin, my brother, and it's obvious, and my wife has already told me, you cannot do a 45-minute sermon, and you need to talk quickly. And so I'm going to try to comply. That way I can stay married another 50 years. Marvin is a lifelong resident of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, with the exception of college and military. He spent a life of service to others. As a youth, he started off, as did most of us, at least in my family, in the Sunday school business, where we prepared and shipped Sunday school literature throughout the world. He went on to help maintain the church grounds. In his mid-teens, he became interested through the insistence of my mother, like Representative Henderson. He gained an interest in politics and began to participate in local campaigns, passing out flyers and whatever she would require them to do. During the junior high school years and high school years, he went on still participating in the political arena. After high school, Marvin continued his journey there to Emporia State and eventually to Temple, and left there and served a tour in the United States Navy. He was honorably discharged from the United States Navy and returned back home to continue his fight in the Quindaro ruins. I frequently asked him, why are you working so hard for something that does not seem to be appreciated by so many? And it was over that span of 30 years that the community learned the importance of Quindaro ruins. When we talk about Quindaro, we're not just talking about the site in which I so love to see. It's a picturesque scenery. It is the place described in Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn. And it's at the fork of the river where the Kansas and the Missouri River meet. And it's a gorgeous site. And it wasn't until I got to the site that I could really appreciate what he was doing and was encouraged to learn more about that. But there in that general vicinity, we have Western University. We have the site where John Brown spoke. We have the Quindaro Cemetery, which so many of us escaped slaves and indigenous Americans are laid to rest there. And that work, not only, as I mentioned, was just there around the ruins, but that work influenced the entire area from Parkville, Missouri, west to the Wellborn area, the Indian tribes throughout the Midwest, the historic Nicodemus, Kansas, all the way back west to Fort Leavenworth. Representative Robertson's contribution to the preservation and economic development of the Quindaro ruins in the area of Kansas City, Kansas is priceless. He has made it a plus. God bless you and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Dwight? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, and we're sorry for your loss. If the committee will turn to their folders, we also have written testimony from Mayor Tyrone Garner on behalf of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas. Do we have any other proponent testimony? Would anybody else like to speak as a proponent on this bill? Do we have any neutral testimony? Any opponent testimony? All right, seeing none, I would just like to add one thing. You know, it often comes up when we talk about the legislature. You know, we all deal with a lot of stress, a lot of conflict. I know Representative Robinson was under some stressful situations on occasion. But, you know, one of the things that makes our service, I found over the years, so worthwhile is not only helping our constituents at home for things like the Quindaro ruins, but also the friends that I make up here. And I saw that today with Representative Penn, Representative Ballard. You know, the people that I meet up here are what make it somewhat bearable also. So anyway, again, family, I'm sorry for your loss and thank you for his service. All right, I'll go ahead and close the hearing on House Bill 2029. Next item on the agenda, committee, is House Bill 2031, permitting driving school instructors to possess a motorcycle driver's license from any state. That means the instructor can live in any state. Chris, will you give a overview? I remember my script this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, House Bill 2031 would permit driving school instructors to possess a motorcycle driver's license from any state. KSA 8-276 is what the bill amends. This statute provides the requirements for a person to qualify as a driving school instructor. Those requirements are evidence of credit in a driver education and safety course, and a credit course by the state board, having a valid credential issued by the State Board of Education to teach driver education, some minimum hours for classroom and training time, knowledge of the Kansas Operation Lifesaver Highway Railroad Grade Crossing Safety Program. They must be physically able to operate a motor vehicle to train others in the operation of motor vehicles. Provide a certificate of help from a doctor stating that they're physically and mentally able to safely operate a motor vehicle. And then the final requirement is they have to hold a valid Kansas driver's license. So the bill would just pertain, creates an exception for motorcycle driving school instructors. And for those motorcycle driving instructors, they have to meet all of those qualifications I listed and possess either a valid Class M driver's license, which is issued by the state, or the equivalent license allowing such an individual to operate a motorcycle in another state. The provisions become effective July 1, 2025, and I would be happy to stand for any questions.
Do we have any questions for Revisor Wagner? Representative Delperdang.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, I'm just trying to grasp onto this. So if I want to be an instructor, I've got to have a valid Kansas driver's license, but I can hold a motorcycle endorsement from any other state.
If you're a motorcycle driving school instructor, if that's
Instructor,
yes.
okay. So, okay, normally, at least in Kansas, it's an endorsement. So how do I get a out-of-state driver's license and have a Kansas license?
Well, no, the Kansas driver's license is the requirement for driving school instructors. The exception, it says, except as provided in subsection B. So subsection B provides that for motorcycle instructors, they have to meet those otherwise meet the other qualifications, or they can have a valid Kansas license or a valid motorcycle license from another state.
So again, I can have say if I'm from Missouri and I've got a Missouri driver's license with a M endorsement on it, am I allowed to, under this bill, instruct in Kansas? Because
as a motorcycle instructor.
even though I do not have a valid Kansas driver's license.
Correct.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
My understanding, the intent of the bill is to allow people in Missouri to give drivers or motorcycle instruction in Kansas, or if you live in Oklahoma, you can teach a motorcycle instruction class in Kansas.
Right. I was just confused on how the wording was. You had to have a valid Kansas driver's license, what I was thinking.
Currently, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to the fiscal note. The Department of Revenue indicated that the bill would not have a fiscal effect on the agency. So in essence, they're saying there's not a fiscal cost associated with this. Representative Resman was going to come and present, but because of an illness on his committee, had to be in his committee. So if everybody will please refer to Representative Resman's testimony as written. He did ask me to point two things out to you to kind of get through some of the cumbersomeness of this process. This is the application to be a driver training teacher license. It should be in your S file. Down here for required additional information refers to the fact that you have to have a Kansas driver's license. If you're a Missouri resident, you can't have a Kansas driver's license. And then also, as far as at the State Department of Education, according to their administrative regulations, it just says you have to have a valid driver's license with a motorcycle endorsement. So there's an inconsistency there that we've got in the way the law is being interpreted between different agencies. And I think that's creating some of the need for this. Did you have a question? Because we've extended beyond my understanding of this bill at this time. All right, with that, the next verbal proponent that we have is Tony Railsbeck. He's the Legislative Director for ABATE. Welcome to the committee again, Tony. You're going to take up residence here, aren't you?
I am with ABATE of Kansas, and I'm here to testify that we are all in favor of this bill. And we are the only state motorcycle rights organization, along with addressing legislative issues. We place a strong emphasis on motorcycle safety and education. Kansas must have outstanding motorcycle instructors who can effectively mentor future riders and enhance the skills of the current ones. While we always prioritize employing those within Kansas, we acknowledge the need to seek qualified instructors from out of our boundaries. It is crucial to emphasize that the expertise of our motorcycle instructors is paramount to this mission. So again, I think you could kind of relate to this, a shortage of teachers, a shortage of nurses. There's a shortage of instructors. So if we can get a few from across the border, it helps everybody all the way around. So ABATE of Kansas is all for this. Any questions?
Yep, do we have any questions for Tony? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Next on the agenda is James Snell, the Riding Academy Manager at Rawhide Harley Davidson. Welcome to the committee, James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. I was asked to bring copies. I don't know if this needs to go to anybody, but there's copies if you need it. My name is James Snell. I am the Riding Academy Manager at Rawhide Harley Davidson, and I write today to testify in support of House Bill 2031 to eliminate the requirement of a Kansas driver's license to teach motorcycle instruction within the state of Kansas. I've been a Motorcycle Safety Foundation rider coach since April of 2009. Over the last 16 years, I have taught with the Midwest Motorcycle Training Center, Johnson County Community College, and now as the Riding Academy Manager at Rawhide. I'm also a tenured professor of music at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. Yes, the other side of the border, I apologize. Currently serving as Associate Dean of Operations. I've been involved in education my entire career and been riding since the age of 15. A large portion of my duties as Riding Academy Manager includes locating, training, and employing certified Motorcycle Safety Foundation rider coaches to teach at Rawhide. Riding a motorcycle is not intuitive, and teaching motorcycle safety is challenging and multifaceted. Beyond the ability to teach effectively in the classroom, a rider coach must also be able to teach motor skill development to adults in a wide variety of learning styles and abilities. It has become increasingly difficult to find interested parties willing to spend the time, effort, and funds to become a rider coach, let alone become an effective teacher. As a national program, all Motorcycle Safety Foundation rider coaches undergo the same training, regardless of the state in which they may teach. We are required to provide the same curriculum, and we are required to recertify every 2 years. This is a large commitment, and many teachers will leave the classroom after a short time of teaching. All of this combines to make finding qualified coaches extremely difficult. With the vast majority of states sanctioning only Motorcycle Safety Foundation curriculum, it would be great benefit to allow coaches from other states to teach in Kansas. As mentioned earlier, riding a motorcycle is not intuitive, and the need for training is paramount to the success, health, and safety of beginning riders. The ability for the state of Kansas to offer high-quality training has a direct effect on the overall safety of transportation in Kansas and abroad. I recommend removing the requirement of a Kansas driver's license to teach motorcycle safety within the state of Kansas to your careful consideration. Thank you.
Very much. Do we have any questions for Mr. Snell? Representative Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe I wasn't listening carefully, but does Missouri have reciprocity? Do they have a requirement that, see how?
Currently, you may teach in Missouri if you have a Motorcycle Safety Foundation certification from any other state. They do have a process in which you have to be certified in Missouri to do so, but you're not locked out if your driver's license is from another state.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It has become increasingly difficult to find interested parties willing to spend time, effort, and funds to become a rider coach, let alone an effective teacher. Why?
It's just the law of numbers. There aren't that many people who ride motorcycles to begin with.
That's what I'm.
Finding enough people who ride motorcycles well enough to think about becoming a coach is a daunting task. And then cut that by the number who can go through the training and pass the training. Cut that by the number who have time and the ability to do this and the willingness and the interest to do this. What we find is the most successful coaches are the ones who have a heart for doing this and doing it well because we love the sport of riding motorcycles and want to give something back. This is not a place in which we make a living. This is always a second job or a hobby for us. So finding high qualified numbers and the numbers we need to teach this class is very challenging.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Great,
Seeing none.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and if you'll just hand those copies to Meg here real quick, and we'll make them available to the public. All right, we have two other proponents that are written. Larry Parks of Gardner, Kansas, a retired police sergeant with Johnson County Sheriff's Department. And then we have Dick Carter in the back, hiding, not wanting to talk to us, with Johnson County Community College. Do we have any other proponents that would like to address the committee? Oh, yeah, I've got you down as written only. I'm sorry, Larry. Come to the committee and address us. Thank you.
Chairman and representatives, thanks for having us here today. My name is Larry Parks. I'm testifying for support of House Bill 2031 that would eliminate the requirement for a Kansas driver's license to teach driver's education for motorcycles in the state of Kansas. I'm a retired police sergeant with 30 years of service with the Johnson County Sheriff's Office and the Olathe Police Department. I served from 1980 through 2008. I'm a lifelong motorcycle enthusiast and I have ridden motorcycles since I was 10 years old. In 2005, I became a motorcycle instructor, so I've been doing it for over 20 years. And I was certified to teach in the Motorcycle Safety Foundation, which is a nationwide organization that promotes motorcycle safety and the instruction of certified instructors. The instructor course is a full 7 days with high standards and qualifications. After completing the instructor training, I taught at the Midwest Motorcycle Training Center in Olathe. I later taught at Johnson County Community College. And from 2009 till 2024, I was a motorcycle instructor at Gales Harley-Davidson, which is in Grandview, Missouri. 2011 through 2004, I managed the motorcycle training for Gale until she closed in June of 2024. As the motorcycle training manager, one of my many duties was to identify, recruit, and train new instructors. As with most positions, we do have turnover. I was always looking to hire at least 2 to 3 instructors every year. But finding qualified instructors is challenging, but you need instructors that can teach someone who has never sat on a motorcycle in their life, and that you have to have above average riding skills just to be able to demonstrate the proper techniques in controlling a motorcycle. I was fortunate, if I could find one new instructor per year that possessed the qualities of being able to teach in the classroom and the writing skills required to pass the instructor course. I have hired instructors that failed the instructor course. Or I let instructors go who did not have the personality, patience, and the skill to be the type of instructor that we want teaching new motorcycle riders. Now, a question that was mentioned earlier, prior to the Department of Transportation taking over oversight of the motorcycle training when it was under the Department of Education, we did have motorcycle instructors from Missouri teaching in Kansas. When I taught at Johnson County Community College, there were several Missouri instructors that was teaching there. But when the Department of Transportation started enforcing the Kansas driver's license requirement, all those Missouri instructors were no longer allowed to teach. Now, I was working at Gales. I picked up 3 instructors because they were looking for a place to teach. They were from Missouri, and I had a good hiring that season. I was able to pick up 3 new instructors. Motorcycle safety training is important. And studies show those who complete a safety course are safe riders, are more likely to wear protective gear, are involved in fewer motorcycle accidents. It also reduces the number of people who die from motorcycle crashes and the number of injuries. There is a shortage of instructors. Jim had touched on it nationwide. And by restricting instructors available to teach in Kansas, by meeting a requirement they must have a Kansas driver's license, reduces the pool of available qualified instructors. With Gail retiring in June of 2024, I'm coming back to teach in Kansas. I'll be working over at Rawhide because I enjoy teaching people how to ride a motorcycle.
All right, do we have any questions for Mr. Parker? Seeing none, thank you. Very good job. Dick, did you want to testify verbally?
There we go. Dick Carter on behalf of Johnson County Community College. Our testimony was intended to be written only. Mrs. Duax certainly has greater knowledge than I do about this program, but I think you heard from Mr. Snell, Mr. Parks, some of the reasons why we support this. I think there's some testimony coming from Department of Revenue that would indicate they wouldn't be opposed to an amendment that would include the standard class of driver's license. We too would support such an amendment. So that would be the only addition that I would make to the statement that we've provided.
Great, thanks for referring to that potential amendment. Okay, thank you. All right, do we have any other proponents? Seeing none, do we have any neutral testimony? We have Zach Denny, Director of Governmental Affairs at Department of Revenue. Welcome to the committee, Zach.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify as neutral on HB 2031. My name is Zach Denny. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue does oversee driving schools in conjunction with the Department of Education. I think a previous conference said the Department of Transportation. Just want to make sure that's clear. We have no concerns with this bill. We're okay with the change, like the previous conference said, increase the number of qualified motorcycle instructors in the state of Kansas. We are neutral on this because, again, as a previous conference said, we would like to see the committee consider an amendment that would drop this requirement for standard driver's license as well for driving school instructors. Again, just maintain consistency in the statute and increase the number of qualified driving school instructors in the state of Kansas. That's my testimony. I will be happy to stand for questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Denny? I want one clarification. When we say we want to extend this, we just mean like passenger car certifications and that.
That's correct, Chairman.
Pickup trucks.
Yeah.
You got to watch that passenger car thing. Yeah, smaller vehicles,
Right.
Regular sized. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any opponent testimony? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the hearing on House Bill 2031. That's the end of our work today, committee. I do want to say again that we will probably be taking final action on House Bill 2030, 2031, and 2029 Monday. For those of you that are new to the process, if you want to do an amendment on one of these bills, you need to get with our revisor and get it drawn up so that we all know what you're trying to put into the bill. I don't see any real concerns with any of this, but if you do plan to do an amendment, please see Chris so that we have it for our benefit. Tuesday, we'll have a hearing on the renaming of a portion of US Highway 77 to be the POW MIA Memorial Highway and Bridge. We'll have a hearing designating a portion of Highway 160 as the Corporal Monty Wayne Forest Memorial Highway. On February 5th, this will be an interesting hearing. We're going to have a hearing on increasing the registration fees for electric and hybrid passenger vehicles, trucks, and electric motorcycles. And then on Thursday, we'll have a presentation from the Kansas Motor Carriers Association. So there may be some other stuff added to the agenda as that you become aware of it, but that's the plan. Also remember that Monday, is that right, is the last day for bill introductions in committee. So if Chris is running behind, you need to really make him work hard this weekend to get caught up. So yeah, that's right. All right, is there anything else for the committee? If not, we're